What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another week of tips and predictions here on The Casual Athlete. I'm your host, Bergs. And yes, guys, I know we had a pathetic week last week. 3 out of 8 tips correct. And God, I was a bit stunned by some of the results. This week looks a little bit more straightforward. But before we get into this week's tips, guys, just a reminder to like and subscribe to the channel. We bring out content each and every week just for you guys, whether your fix be fantasy or tipping or anything general NRL. We love to hear from you guys, so please make sure you send in your comments, send in your questions, videos that you might want us to do in the future. Now, let's take a quick look back at how I did last week. As you can see here, guys, the Roosters on Friday night. Now, in one comp, I did tip the Storm. This one was just racking my brain. 50-50 as it goes. A lot of missed calls in the game both ways. I know Trent Robinson had a lot to say in the press conference about some of the calls his team didn't receive, but I've got to be fair to the Storm. They stuck it out again and won another close one. They love these tight games, and you know what that says to me? That they are going to be a threat come finals times, because it's those moments in games that you need to win, and the Storm are owning more of them this year against the teams that they play. The Warriors, I'm absolutely stunned. I thought the Dragons were not going to turn up in this game. Honestly, they were at Wynn Stadium, but the Warriors have won the last 2 games there, and I'm just stunned at the scoreline, to tell you the truth. The Warriors just did not turn up whatsoever, couldn't really get anything going down the middle, and that's where they like to penetrate a lot of the time. Wade Egan having a tough time, Tohu Harris working hard as usual, but Adam Fanua-Blake not having the big impact that he usually does as well. God, I went Parramatta, and it was looking okay at halftime, and then the second half came out, and the Dolphins were there. Parramatta weren't. In this one, Parramatta just completely disappointed across the board, right? Like, I don't know what is happening at that club, but they seem to want to play, and as Brad Arthur said, part-time football, and it's not good enough at this level of the game. There's another team I'm going to talk about later that are pretty much the same at this point in time, but for Parramatta, they really need Mitchell Moses back. I think he gives the club so much direction. He takes the pressure off Dylan Brown as well and other guys like that. Jermaine Hopgood's doing his best in the middle, but he can't be there on every play. They've got to want to play for each other, and there were just a few plays there last week. They made Jeremy Marshall-King look like one of the best hookers in the NRL, and that's something that you can't do to the Dolphins, who are all effort and all hustle. Penrith, yeah, they got the win there in Bathurst. A couple of controversial calls when it went against the Tigers there, but yeah, I'm just not entirely convinced the Tigers were ready to take on the juggernaut that is Penrith at the time, so we got the win there. The Titans, man, they were so close again. A very topsy-turvy game. I think the lead changed 8 times in this game, and a lot of points being scored right up until about the 60th minute, and then for the last 20 minutes or so, it was just a complete shutout. No tries could be scored. Broncos, they got that win 13+, and I thought they would too. Fogarty going down for the Raiders is not good news. Cover your ears, Raiders fans. Unfortunately, it looks like he will be out for an extended period of time, and we've seen what the Raiders are like without Jamal Fogarty, so it could be dark days ahead for the Raiders. The Doggies, they got a great win. How good was that to see against the Newcastle Knights? They buried them there last year, the Knights 66-0. So, the Doggies definitely wanted a little bit of revenge in this one, and boy, didn't they get it, putting on a massive score at Accor Stadium. And my Cowboys, there isn't that much to talk about, is there? Oh, God. They're just not playing for each other right now. They don't want to tackle. They don't want to do the hard work. They just want to throw the ball around, play a bit of touch footy, and expect to run up the score, and they'll win games 36-30. We got a rude awakening in this game. The Sharks really handed it to us. They said, no, you're not going to score any points, and what are you going to do without scoring points? And we didn't have an answer. I think a lot of people are playing for themselves right now for the Cowboys. I think this might have to be a separate video just to contain all of my ranting that I feel about the Cowboys right now. But anyway, they got the loss, and we ended up with 3 out of 8 this week. And with all of that out of the way, let's have a look at the TCA tipping comp round up for round 7. And Benny Backshots is back at the top. Well done to you, Benjamin. And we've got Jigglypuff still there. It's a margin game at the moment, but it's close up to the top. We've got 3 people on 41 points. We've got Jack, Benjamin, and Jordan there. Well done to you guys. Keep up the good work. I am sadly down in 111th place right now. Looking far from this top of the table at the moment. Only 9 points behind the front, though. But let's see if we can get back up there, guys. Praying towards the end of the season. There's still a lot of football to be played. Alrighty, guys, with all of that out of the way, let's get into the tips for round 8. We have the Warriors taking on the Titans. Bit of an unconventional matchup on Anzac Day. There's 3 games on Anzac Day this year, so big action happening on Thursday for your Anzac Day. And over the last 10 games between the Warriors and the Titans, it is split 5-5 right down the middle. And for the Warriors, well, they just didn't turn up at Wynn Stadium. It was a pretty disappointing effort, not only for their fans who travelled to the game, but also anyone who tipped them as well, because I don't know many people who tip the Dragons. For the Titans, I know a few people tipped this upset. I was one of them, and the lead changed 8 or 9 times in that game against the Seagulls, but they just couldn't get it over the line. In this one, though, they should get Philip Sami back. He was a late withdrawal from that game. With the Warriors, their injury count only got bigger with Harris Tavita a few weeks ago as well. They've got a fair few guys just sitting out on the sidelines right now. Interesting, I think the Titans could be ripe for the picking here, although the Warriors forward pack to me is still quite good. I think Barnett, Tohu Harris and Adam Fanua-Blake are working together really well. And for the Titans, they just need to play AJ Brimson at fullback. That's as simple as it is right now. He's the best fullback option that they have. I'm sorry, Jaden Campbell, but when he comes back, he can either come off the bench or play 6, and that will be where his position is best utilised in this team for me, because AJ is the centrepiece of those outside backs. And yes, you've got guys like Tino and Fafita, but Tino's not there right now. Fafita's, a bit up and down with form. AJ looks the most likely, so I'd be trying to run as much play through him as possible. But in this one, I've got to go the Warriors 1-12. Next up on Anzac Day is the all-important classic clash of Titans with the Dragons taking on the Roosters at 4 p.m. This is a home game for the Dragons. All right, NRL, we'll count your blessings on that one. In the last 10 games on Anzac Day between these two teams, the Roosters have gotten the better of the Dragons 6 out of those 10 times. And the Dragons, well, they were impressive last week. I've got to say, they have become by far the hardest team to tip in this competition. I do not know when they are going to win week to week. They are so hot and cold for me right now, but Flano had them playing the right way on the weekend. Zach Lomax, man, and not only is he great at centre, he is good on the wing as well, and I think he's really pushing for that Origin Blues jersey this year. We will be doing an Origin predictions video pretty soon, guys, as well, so stay tuned for that one. For the Roosters in this game, they've got to get the win, don't they? I think in the last couple of games, they squeaked by against the Knights. They were there or thereabouts against the Storm, but they get a host of players back this week. Dom Young, big bad Dom Young, comes back from his suspension. They also have Sandon Smith available for this game, and Sam Walker is still dealing with a couple of issues from his head knock, but should be right to go for this game. Only just failed his HIA assessment during the week. And Satili Tupanua should also be available for this game, although he's been up and down with form. It's mid-table right now for me for these two teams, and the Roosters do tend to turn up on Anzac Day, but I can remember some great games between these two teams. The Michael Wayman try as well. Ben Cray with the offload, or was it the other way around? It was the Michael Wayman offload to the Ben Cray try. That's a big one for me. Growing up as a kid, I used to love watching these two teams play on Anzac Day, and my memories serve me well. The Roosters get a win here, 1-12. The final matchup on Anzac Day is another unconventional one where we have the Storm taking on the Rabbitohs at Amy Park. And in the last 10 games between these two teams, the Storm have won 8 out of those last 10 games. They do get a couple of ins this week. We've got Tepai Maroa, who should be available for them, and also Suafea Longo should also be available for the Rabbitohs, though. They are without a host of players. Tavita Totola will not be back until about round 18 to 19 with that foot injury. Jai Arrow still working on a shoulder issue. We obviously have Latrell out suspended. We've got Campbell out. We've got Johnston out, and Tyrone Munro also refractured his collarbone in the game a couple of weeks ago. I don't know what the Rabbitohs spoke about over the last 2 weeks, but hopefully it was a strategy on how to beat the Melbourne Storm, because they've had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. The Storm, well, they're in second position right now, but their points differential isn't looking very favourable right now. They tend to win games by less than 8 points right now. That's basically the biggest winning margin they've had this year is 8. While they've won 5 games this year, all of them have been close, and it has either gone right down to the wire or the last 5 minutes. And not only in some of those games have they been behind and scored to try to win the game, they have also defended a lead as well, as we saw on the weekend. For this one, I've got to tip the Storm, right? I feel like everyone will get on the Storm. No one will be tipping the Bunnies to come back after a 2 week layoff and get this game done. For the Storm, at least they got a week off for this game. They played last Thursday, but I just can't tip the Rabbitohs in this game. They've shown me nothing this year that they're going to come out and beat the Storm. The form line would suggest the Storm. Everything points towards the Storm, and I got to go the Storm. 1-12. Friday night has us out at Four Pines Park, where the Manly Seagulls will be taking on the Parramatta Eels. And over the last 10 games between these two teams, the Eels have won 6 out of those last 10 games. Big ins for the Seagulls this week. They should get Josh Aloiai back. They should also get Nathan Brown coming back from a knee injury. And for the Eels, they will be without Dejan Arce, as his head knock kept him off the field for the rest of the Dolphins game last week. So that means that he will probably be out for this game. And now who do they turn to? Is it a case of putting Bryce Cartwright at 6? We've seen that in the past. Is there going to be a Blaze Taulagi backflip? Is he going to come in and play 5'8"? Or is it time for Ethan Sanders? Now, I know Brad Arthur has said that he will not be putting in Ethan at this point in time. I actually think that Ethan is probably looking good for a mid-season move, especially with Jamal Fogarty going down and the Raiders were chasing him as well. But just give the kid a crack. I think in this game, you got nothing to lose at this point. The Eels, well, they're, as Brad Arthur said and Clint Gutherson said, they're a part-time football team right now, and you can't afford to do that in a competition that plays for 80 minutes when you only play for 40. Seagulls, I like them a lot here. They showed a lot in attack last week. They were just a little bit weak through the middle, I thought. The Titans really won that forward battle, although they were out a couple of blokes as well in Toff Sipley and Aloiai, and Nathan Brown's been doing a good enforcer role, so they should get him back as well. I'm going to go the Seagulls in this one. I think it's pretty straightforward. This is a pretty old rivalry. Both these teams don't like playing each other. The fan bases don't like each other. And I think the Seagulls will get a win here, 13+. Saturday, 5:30, we're out at Campbelltown, where the Tigers will be taking on the Broncos. Now, over the last 10 games between these two teams, I found it very interesting that it is split down the middle, 5-5. Now, the Broncos got the most recent win, which was last year, but prior to that, the Tigers were on a 4-game winning streak against the Broncos. And I got to say, the Tigers have been playing some very consistent football this year. They took it to Penrith last week, had them pretty close for most of that game. Just a couple of tries towards the end and some rub of the green really didn't go their way. And for the Broncos, well, they've been doing okay without Payne Haas and Adam Reynolds, who they should get back this week, along with Brendan Piakura as well. Some big ins for the Broncos there. Might be a bit tough for the Tigers to contend with, but I like what I'm seeing from the Tigers. They're playing for each other. They're defending quite well. They're finding their spots and really trying to own their craft. I think Lachlan Galvin is, playing some really good footy for a young man, 18 years old. We'll have to see how, his career progresses, but right now it's looking like some superstar status stuff. So, yeah, I've got nothing but respect for the Tigers, but I just think, again, Broncos are a juggernaut, aren't they? They get to go down to Campbelltown, 5:30 on a Saturday, flat track bully team. The Broncos, they're quick. They love to turn teams up on a flat track. So it's actually a tough one for me, even though the Tigers are $4 outsiders right now. But I've got to stick to the methods this week. I'm going to go the Broncos. I think they get this one done actually pretty comfortably in the end. But I think the Tigers will make it close again for long periods in this game. I'm going to go the Broncos, 13+. The primetime Saturday game is up at North Queensland, where we've got the Cowboys taking on the Panthers. Now, over the last 10 games between these two teams, the Panthers have got a better record, winning 6 out of those last 10 games. However, the last 5 games of this series have gone to the home team. Now, that is my only ray of hope for this game, as the Cowboys were once again on Sunday very disappointing, not only for myself, but I think to themselves. They just gave up. I think they're at a point in that second half when Mulatalo went over in the corner and nobody chased him as he ran all the way around under the sticks to make it a very easy conversion. That told me everything I need to know about where their headspace was at the time. They're not looking to play for each other. They're looking to play as individuals. And this is a pretty scathing review, but I could probably go on for hours talking about how bad the Cowboys have been in recent weeks. Coming back up to North Queensland, the last matchup that I want is the Panthers, especially with Nathan Cleary coming back into the side. That just, it'll do me. So couple of rays of hope as well. Dylan Edwards picked up a bit of a calf problem last week or leg issue, and we also had Taylor May out during the week due to some personal issues. I expect Dylan Edwards to play though. He's a warrior. He'll come back and play. No matter if he's got one leg, so the other one got chopped off. So for Cleary as well, it'll be his first game back. He was probably due to come back last week, but they just held off on that hamstring injury, so I expect him to be fit for this one. Although Brad Schneider has done pretty well in his absence. It's time to take my Cowboys hat off for this one and just accept that my team isn't playing the kind of defensive football that we need to be playing right now. I think Cleary will really straighten up the attack of Penrith, and they also tend to get a lift. He is their captain as well, best player in the comp. So, he tends to elevate those players around him. And I think in this one, we're going to be staring down the barrel of our third straight loss. I'm going to go the Panthers, 13 plus. NRL Anzac weekend continues on Sunday, where we've got the Dolphins taking on the Knights at Suncorp. Now, over the last two games between these two teams, they split the record, and I got to say, there was a lot of points scored in both games last year between these two teams. Big news out of the Knights camp, though, for this game is that Kalen Ponga against the Dogs was taken off in a moon boot, and we'll still have to wait and see what the scans tell us about that foot injury. He was also dealing with a hip pointer issue, but was just a passenger out on the field. It looked like he couldn't put any strength through any of his runs, and it just looked a little bit kind of dead from the start. With the Dolphins, they get a big in this week. They should get Tommy Flegler back. Farnworth will be pushing to come back if he does come back. Kurt Donahue will also be available for this team. But what I loved out of the Dolphins last week is they backed themselves. They played through the middle, and some guys really stood up. Oren Keeley, Max Plath, these young guys who you may not have heard of prior to this season have just stepped up in a big way for the Dolphins. And they got a massive win against the Eels, piled on points in what seemed like 10 minutes. For the Knights, if they don't have Kalen Ponga in this game, I don't give them much hope. Their record is not brilliant without him, but without him, it gives an opportunity to maybe a younger player like Fletcher Sharp, his 19-year-old, who could step into the role as a young fullback coming through, but also the English import, Will Price, Leon Price's son, played a lot of games for England and over in the Super League, especially for the Bradford Bulls, Leon Price. So I would love to see those players get a shot, and if they come in and do a really good job, we'd love to see if they can snag a bench spot moving forward. I don't know what Adam O'Brien was thinking in terms of putting Cogger back to reserve grade, because Gamble came in this week and his kicking game was dead set dreadful. It didn't put any pressure on the Dogs. I think Jackson Hastings as well is kind of going through the motions as a halfback, not really taking over the game, not really directing the team around the park, managing the game as a good halfback should. And then they rely a lot on Kalen Ponga to make a good run or make a good play just off the back of his own talent. I'm going to go the Dolphins in this one. I think the Knights will make it close, though. They'll be spirited without Kalen Ponga, but I think the Dolphins get a win here, 1-12. The final game of Anzac round takes us back to GIO Stadium, where we've got the Raiders taking on the Cronulla Sharks. Now, over the last 10 games between these two teams, the Raiders have won 8, but the Sharks are currently on a 2-game winning streak and did get a win earlier this season against the Raiders. For the Raiders, though, big news as Jamal Fogarty has torn his bicep and will be out for a long period this year. And looking at their halfback stocks, it's a bit panic stations for me. I think I'm expecting KO Weeks to come in, but he is more of a 5'8", and is going to leave a lot of pressure on young Ethan Strange. I'm just not a big fan of their halfback options outside that. They had a couple of fullbacks actually play in the halves for them in New South Wales Cup as well. So neither of those two guys, I think Mania Watiri and Adam Cook, are exactly great options in the halves either. I know they're chasing Ethan Sanders, but I think that is a conversation for another time. For the Sharks, they're doing fantastic right now. They are top of the table, and they got a thumping win over my North Queensland Cowboys. They also get a couple of guys back for this game. Dalfa Nukin should come back. We've got Royce Hunt, who should be available as well, and it also was a good moment for young Sammy Stonestreet for the Newtown Jets faithful to get a try there as well. Been watching that guy for a couple of years now as a fan of the Newtown Jets myself, and it's good to see him get an opportunity for the Sharks. In this game, I've got to pick the Sharks. I mean, it's just I'm looking for an upset this week, guys, and it is so difficult. Like I dead set think that a lot of the matches are going to be one-sided, whether it be based on injuries or just the way the team's playing at the moment. I just don't really see many upsets happening. Yeah, unfortunately, I've got to go the Sharks again. I think they get this one done pretty comfortably, 13 plus down at GIO. I think the Raiders are in for a tough time without Jamal Fogarty. This is the start of the slide for the Raiders this year, back to down to where I predicted them finishing in the bottom 5 for this season. I'm going to go the Sharks, 13 plus. So that's it for this week's video, guys. What did you think about my tips? Let me know down in the comments section below. Please make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. We bring out so much content each and every week, and I'll catch you on the next one.